Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm taking a look at Oliver Anthony's new song, Richmond, North of Richmond. And the first time I heard this, I have to be honest, it was awesome. Just blew me away. I mean, the passion and the attention to detail and just the overall feeling that you get from listening to this song is something that I feel like has been really lacking from not just music, but art in general nowadays. We live in a modern world with technology, everything. AI is taking over pretty much everyone's jobs. And it's nice to go back to the basics. And so I just thought I would do a review of this. My last video that I did a review of a song, which was American Flags, that did pretty well. So I figured, why not try another one? So yeah, let's take a listen and I'll pause it throughout to add my thoughts.
Well, I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away. Drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah, the total control thing I think is something I've brought up before on this channel, and it's something that's become so apparent now that a lot of people don't really seem to have an issue with. I talk to people both on the left and the right, and the one thing the people on the right seem to understand is that the government is not out for, altruistic reasons, right? They're not doing things because they care about you. They're doing things that can increase their power or give them more money, right? That's ultimately what people in government do. And it's not true for everyone. Obviously, there's exceptions everywhere. But I think the point is that you basically have this institution designed to create rules that the people have to follow. Well, what happens when the institution starts to go a little bit sideways and stops caring about what the people actually want, right? And so he's singing about, people having to work 9-to-5 jobs plus overtime and barely making ends meet. And what can they afford to do, right? They can't really afford to do much other than stay at home and drink or do drugs. And so that's why a large majority of Americans actually do have a drug-related problem. Some of it's pharmaceutical, some of it's illegal, but regardless, America does have a drug problem, and it's clear to me now that a lot of people don't want to hear messages like this. There's a lot of backlash for, American Flags as well as for this song. And I've already seen it on social media, people talking poorly about this song, saying it's divisive or that it's trying to, paint a picture of the left or of the right or whatever. And ultimately, I'm like, this is where I feel like music, it has its real place in the world is, and not just music, but art in general, is to, elicit some sort of emotional response from people. Maybe it's, sadness or happiness or joy or anger or whatever it might be, right? To elicit some sort of emotional response to get people to do something, right? And right now I see a lot of people having emotional responses, but not really doing anything about it. One of the things that I found was that the second I started doing this YouTube channel was that there's a lot more people out there who actually want to hear what I have to say than I originally thought. When I first started, I was like, no one's subscribing, no one's watching the videos. I'm just doing this to shout into the void and basically make myself feel better, right? It's kind of how it started. And so, it's nice to see that there are people out there that feel the same way that I do and that I'm not alone in this. And, it's not just me. It's not just the normal average Joe 9-to-5 worker. It's the people who, are even people who are higher up. Comedians feel this way as well, right? It started with cancel culture and all this other stuff, but now it's become actually embedded in our politics, the need to control people, right? And to control how they live their lives, what they're doing, and just basically ignoring reality for the sake of making people, quote unquote, feel better. So it's clear that we need more people like this, more people like Tom McDonald or Oliver Anthony making songs like this and actually, preaching the good word, right? The word of loving each other, loving your neighbor, and trying to take care of your country and not just disrespecting it. So yeah, it's just, so far so good.
Know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do.
Yeah, that's spot on, right? They don't think that but we all know. We're all aware of what's happening, and yet no one seems to be talking about it, and no one seems to be even that upset enough to have to want to do something to take power back into your own hands, and that to me is wild, right? Seeing a population of people be basically okay with their rights being stripped away or the government just seizing control, that should really freak out a lot of us. And to me, I'm not seeing the level of, anger or fear that you would expect to see from a population that's basically being ran by the government rather than the people running the government. So it's just, it's sad, but it's something that I'm noticing more and more.
Your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end.
Oh, preach. Yes. The dollar is basically now no longer do people want to trade in the dollar. If they can get off of the US dollar, they're trying to. And we've already seen a number of countries move away from using the US dollar as their form of currency. And I think that speaks volumes to where our nation is, right? The fact that no one wants to use our currency or our money, right, should paint a very clear picture of where we are at as a nation, right? And it's very, very sad to see that that's the case, and on top of that, right, like the average worker, right, who's making minimum wage or just above minimum wage and is trying to provide for their family, right? No longer can you have a single person in a household doing that. You need dual incomes pretty much in order to make sure that ends meet. And I don't understand, so many people want to act like working for a boss until you're 70 is the way to live your life, right? And ultimately, like, it's great for, providing for your family, getting benefits, right? It's just not the way to live your life. And unfortunately, when you're working overtime and if you're you're barely making ends meet, there's not much else to do other than to just buy beer and go home and watch TV, right? And that's your life. You go to work, you go to the grocery store, buy beer, go home, watch TV, fall asleep, wake up, do it again, right? And maybe if you're lucky, you get to take a vacation once every year, right? But I mean, that's if your job even lets you. It's just crazy. And the dollar's worthless now, effectively. And we just have a government that continuously is spending our tax money and sending it overseas. And what do we get in return? Absolutely nothing, right? The most powerful government in the world can't solve homelessness, and yet they want more money to fix climate change. It's bizarre. It makes no sense whatsoever, right? And it's only a matter of time before states like California or New York start taxing your actual miles. So every time you get a smog check on your car, right, and they check your mileage, they'll have the mileage from the previous year. They'll check this mileage. What's the difference between the two? Okay, you drove, 10,000 miles this year, right? You had a bunch of commuting, whatever. Well, great. Now you have to pay an extra 5 cents per mile. Right. This is how they're going to get you. It's little taxes here and there. Right. And eventually people are going to get so fed up that they're just going to say no. And I can't wait for that day to come.
The rich man, the rich man. I wish politicians would look out for miners and not just miners on an island somewhere. Lord.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, you would expect your politicians to have, the people's interests at heart, right? To try and watch out for the people, to really do what is right, and what we're seeing right now with all these drag performances for kids or taking kids to sexualized performances or pride parades where there are literally naked men walking around nude, and the cops are literally saying that they won't do anything. Right. This is where our society is now. And, it really does make me feel very strongly about our government and about where our government is and where it's heading. Right. The fact that politicians, that we have to argue to protect minors from sexualized performances, and there is half the population that is not okay with that, right? That actually want sexualized performances for children. The fact that there's it's split, right? It's crazy that we're even at this point. It really is crazy. Like I'm not even exaggerating, right? The level of mental inability that you need in order to think that this is appropriate behavior. And our politicians are pushing for this. It's not that they're just sitting back and doing nothing. No, our politicians are actively pushing for things like drag story time for kids. Like crazy, but being actively pushed. I don't understand how that's not freaking people out. More parents need to be upset about this. It's disgusting. It's gross.
Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on welfare just abusing the system because they don't want to work, right? Like if you're overweight, right, you should not be on welfare. You should not be getting food stamps. You should not. This is not something that is even remotely close to being hateful in any way. If you're obese, you're good on food. You're fine. You're good for the next couple of weeks at least. Just drink water. It's fine. But no, our government supports people like this. Our government supports people who do nothing for our society, right? They leave the veterans, people who are homeless, dealing with depression or PTSD. Our veterans are not taken care of whatsoever, and yet they'll take care of severely obese people who don't want to work, and they'll give them free food and free insurance, free whatever, right? I don't understand why more people are not upset about this. It's going to take a lot more people like Oliver Anthony, like Tom McDonald. You know, it's going to take a lot more people in order to really get the message out there and get people to actually wake up. Because I'm sick of being like one of the few people who actually feels this way. Like more people need to understand what's happening in the US. And if you actually want to start changing things, you have to start being honest about the situation. You can't keep lying and saying that men are women and women are men. You're never, ever going to fix any of the world's problems because you're not operating in the reality world. You're operating in some other figmented, imaginative world. It's just, oh man, it pisses me off.
God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground, cause all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough, especially like, you know, for young people in general, it's really difficult. There's a lot of information out there about where dating is now. And I think it was something like 45% of women will be between the ages of like 20 and 40 or something like that are going to be single and childless in 2023. 45% of women. And, you know, I think this has a lot to do with, you know, modern feminism pushing this idea that working for a corporate boss is somehow better than being in a relationship. Right. I mean, like, of course, the employer market, right. The people who are employing you, they want more employees to pick from because now they have a much larger pool. They've effectively doubled their pool of candidates that they can pick for their job. So now they can actually expand their business much greater than they could previously because now there's more employees. And because of the number of employees, they can pay employees less. Right. So now, right, rather than one income being enough for a household, it requires 2 incomes because now you're both doing half, right? You're both taking up half of that household income. I mean, inflation continues to rise. The government continues to blow your tax dollars. They don't care. They're sending it overseas. They don't care what they're spending it on. Oh my gosh, it's disgusting what's happened to our country in such a short time. It really is.
Lord, it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's the hardest part, right? Is convincing people what he's saying is true. It is true. You know, if you spend a little bit of time just like removing your personal emotions from the issue and from the conversation, actually sitting down and thinking about it without getting emotional, you will realize what he is saying is true. Our country, our government, our politicians do not care about us, both on the left and on the right. This has been true for the last at least 20 years. This is terrible. Right? To say that America now is basically crumbling because of poor leadership, right? Americans should do better. Americans should know better, right? We know what poor leadership is like. And unfortunately, people have been so brainwashed by the media and by the news and by social media, basically filling their feed with nonsensical woke garbage. You know, this is the type of person we need more of. Someone like this. Like, and honestly, like the entire vibe, the entire setup of this video too is exactly what I like, right? He's got a microphone, he's got a guitar, just wearing a t-shirt out in the woods, just filming it. like just chilling, hanging out, singing a song. I love this. You know, this is like, you know, when people say Americans don't have culture, we have country, and I'm not a big country fan at all. I really don't like country, but I'm not gonna lie, like this is now on my favorited songs list. That's just, I don't know. It just means a little bit more to me, I think.
Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do.
Wow, yeah, they do. They want total control. They want total control over your life, right? They want you to eat bugs. They want you to bike to and from work. They don't want you to own a car, right? They're going to start with electrical vehicles, and then they're going to say, oh, that's too intense on the power grid, so you can only drive your electrical vehicle one time per week or twice per week to get groceries or to blah, 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 whatever. Oh, sorry, electrical vehicles are straining the power grid, or we're using too much energy, so now we're going to have to take away these people's cars, or no more buying electric cars. It's a slow, right? This is what they do. They slowly erode your freedoms, right? Year by year, month by month, day by day, until you are basically living like a peasant, right? You will be a serf. And unfortunately, right, people don't want to have this conversation. People don't want to address this for what it is. It's terrible what's happening. You know, and people act like it's an overreaction to say any of this stuff. It's like, how far do we need to go before you start listening, right? Like how much more damage needs to be done to our society before you actually shut the fuck up and start listening? At what point, right? It's crazy. It's wild.
'Cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men, north of Richmond. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay.
Yeah. Oh, that's, you know, it's a powerful message, and it rings true for me, you know, selling your soul, working a job that you really are not in love with, you know. And so many people, so many Americans specifically, and I'll keep this in the frame of, you know, the US, because that's where I'm from. I don't know what it's like in Canada or where else, but definitely in the US, in the United States of America, people live to work. They don't work to live, right? And they basically sell their soul to a corporation or to some company that's paying their wage. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you choose to do. But don't act like that's the dream life, right? People are meant for more than that. People are built to be creative and to think and to, you know, to overcome struggle, right? We're not meant to be drones going to work, coming home, drinking, watching TV, going to bed, wake up, go to work, come home, drink, watch TV. That's not what life is supposed to be. That's not what I want my life to be, you know, and it's tough to pull yourself out of that. For sure it is, but it's not impossible. I don't know. I think there's a lot of hope for us. I think as Americans, like, Americans have a different spirit than any other nation. And that is just, I don't know what it is. I don't know how you can prove it, but it's true. I know it's true. Americans are built different. That's what I believe. I believe Americans do have the strength to pull themselves out of this situation and to do the right thing and to stop electing shitty politicians. Seriously, we need to stop. We need to stop, pump the brakes, and think and be like, do we really want this old dementia-ridden geezer running our country? The fact that this guy hasn't been impeached is quite amazing if you think about it, right? Because there's no fucking way in hell this guy is capable of running a country. Okay, I'm sorry. There's just not. And it's not hateful to say it, but we need a new president now. Yesterday, 3 years ago. There's still people defending Biden because they refuse to learn. People like that are genuinely so twisted in the mind that they refuse to actually admit that they were wrong and to learn from their experience, right? I just, what's the point of life if you never learn anything, or if you never change your mind, or if you're always stuck in your ways, and when you're 50 or 60 and you refuse to change your mind, right? Like, how can you live your life like that? How can you grow up to be older, right? Older and wiser, quote unquote, and not know that it's okay to change your mind and to admit that you were wrong, that the government was lying about the vaccine, right? That the government was trying to brainwash you with all this propaganda in the news, that maybe Trump wasn't that bad of a guy. Maybe he wasn't that bad of a president. How do you, how? Someone could give me the answer in the comments below. How? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thanks for staying and watching if you made it this far. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you subscribe, welcome aboard. But otherwise, take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.